It's like a record. So these are accomplishments. We have a lot of accomplishments, and as you know, this is the anniversary, first anniversary, January 20th, and it's been an amazing period of time. We have a book that I'm not going to read to you, but these are the accomplishments of what we've produced. All page after page after page, individual things. I could stand here and read it for a week and we wouldn't be finished. But we've done more than any other administration has done by far in terms of military, in terms of ending wars, in terms of completing wars. Nobody's really seen very much like it. I think it's appropriate that because Minnesota is so much in the fray, and I say to my people all the time, and they're so busy doing other things, they don't say it like they should. They're apprehending murderers and drug dealers and a lot of bad people, and these are just some of the more recent ones that we have, and I can show you some of the people. Vicious, many of them murderers. These are all out of Minnesota, just Minnesota. I say, why don't you talk about that more? Because people don't know. Do you want to live with these people? International murder. These are people that are living, they're apprehended and either put in jails in their country from where they came, and the countries respect us, and so they actually put them there. In the old days, they didn't respect our country. Biden wouldn't do this because he let them all in. You know, if you didn't have open border policies of Biden, none of this, all of the things that all of the time that we spend talking about Minnesota and everything else, most of them are coming from out of the country. And it's been caused by a previous administration. Look at this, one after one. Boy, these are rough characters. These are all criminal, illegal aliens that, in many cases, they're murderers, they're drug lords, drug dealers, they're the mentally insane. There's some of them who are brutal killers, they're mentally insane. They're killers, but they're insane. These are just in Minnesota. California, it's worse. In other states, it's worse. Now, Minnesota, the crime is incredible. The financial crimes are incredible. And the problem is because of the agitators and insurrectionists, whatever you want, troublemakers, but they're paid agitators and insurrectionists. Nobody talks about the fact that $19 billion at a minimum is missing in Minnesota, given to a large degree by Somalians. They've taken it. Somalians, can you imagine? And they don't do it. A lot of very low IQ people, they don't do it. Other people work it out, and they get them money, and they go out and buy Mercedes-Benzes, and they come from here, they have no money. They never had money, they never had a life, they never had a government, they never had a country. Because there's basically no country. Somalia is not even a country. They don't have anything that resembles a country. And if it is a country, it's considered just about the worst in the world. They come here and they become rich and they don't have a job. I was told that Ilhan Omar is worth $30 million. She never had a job. She's a crooked congressman. So here is another one. And I have, oh, by the way, we just took out, these are all what ICE is doing. And it's a dangerous job. These are rough people. Weapons. This one here is very bad. I'm going through this because I think we have plenty of time. I'm going to beautiful place in Switzerland where we'll be, I'm sure I'm very happily awaited for. In Switzerland, they don't know about this. They don't have this problem. They have other problems, but they don't have this problem. Look, killed somebody. Look, and these are rough people. These are not, this was all allowed into our country through open borders. The dumbest policies You know, men and women's sports is dumb. But to me, having an open border for the world to come in, drug dealers and prisoners, Venezuela, as an example, opened their prisons into the United States. That's why one of the reasons I felt so strongly against Venezuela. Now I'm loving Venezuela. They've been working with us so well. It's been so nice. And an unbelievably nice woman also did a very incredible thing, as you know, a few days ago. We're talking to her, and maybe we can get her involved in some way. I'd love to be able to do that. Maria, maybe we can do that. But we're dealing with the people and the president and all of the people in Venezuela, and we've been doing great. The oil companies are getting ready to make massive investments there. They have more oil than even Saudi Arabia. There you go. These are rough water. This is all Minnesota, every one of them. This is one state out of many. And these people are, let's see, yeah, these are all, so far, people that came from outside of the country. They were allowed in by Sleepy Joe Biden, Crooked Joe Biden, whichever you like. You can call him whatever you like. They're both right. He's sleepy and he's crooked. He was the worst president we've ever had. And we've had some bad ones, too. I can tell you, all you have to do is look at trade. You're not getting bored with this, right? I hope you don't. But these are people that you have to see. Strong-arm rape, aggravated assault with a weapon, and many other crimes. Gang member, known as one of the toughest people around. These are tough people. So this is what the people are trying to protect, because all ICE wants to do is get them out of our country, bring them to prisons and jails and mental institutions from where they came. That's all they want to do. They're patriots, and they have to be abused by guys like Don Lemon, who's a loser, lightweight. I saw him the way he walked in that church. It was terrible. I have such respect for that pastor. He was so calm. He was so nice. He was just accosted. What they did in that church was horrible yesterday. Look at it here. 24 convictions. 24 times convicted. They're not charges. These are convictions. So he comes from outside the country. Do you think he's going to be good here? He's convicted 24 times. He's going to be good here, right? It doesn't work that way. He's a man murderer. One of many. One of many. All they want to do is get him out. They want to take him out of our country. And we're met with paid agitators and insurrectionists, troublemakers. They're paid. You know, when the woman was shot, and I felt terribly about that. And I understand both sides of it. But when she was shot, there was another woman that was screaming shame. Shame, 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 right? You saw it. So loud. Like a professional opera singer. She was so loud and so professional. She wasn't a woman that was hurt, like, oh, my heart's injured. She was a professional. She's shame, shame. She's screaming, shame, shame. I said, that's not a normal person. That's a professional. These are professional agitators and professional people that want to see our country do badly. But that's not happening because we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, despite this stuff. Look at this. All top of the line criminals. They're not going to be good. They're not going to be well behaved here. I could do thousands. We had over 3,000 in the last fairly short while. Just in Minnesota. What's the number, Carol? 10,000.
10,000 criminals arrested in Minnesota alone.
10,000 criminals. And these are serious criminals. Now, how can a place with 10,000 criminals, how can you have a state? And yet they're fighting us. I like that guy. Keeps nodding to me. Do you agree with me, I guess? I like him. I don't know who he is, but I like him. He keeps nodding. He says, you're right. He's obviously a little on the right side, maybe. Look. These are rough ones. So this, we just took this off a stack. We have many stacks like this. Like, I could go 30 times what I'm showing you now. Relations with Hezbollah. Nice. Why do we allow them in our country? I'm just looking at these charges. It's just pretty incredible. Many murderers, many murderers. People that murdered. So what ICE does, and Border Patrol is incredible, too. I mean, Paul Perez and that group is incredible. Mostly Hispanic, by the way. They're like 60% Hispanic. You know, they talk about Hispanic. They're mostly Hispanic, right? And they're unbelievable people. And then they say, oh, we discriminate against. I love Hispanic. They are unbelievable. Entrepreneurial. They have everything. I did great. I did the highest. Nobody ever got numbers like I got from the standpoint of being a Republican. But even if you look at Texas, I won the entire border along Texas, between Texas and Mexico. It never happened before. Nobody's ever done that before. I did it. As a Republican, I did it. I love the Hispanic. And they accuse us of all sorts of things. 60% of the people we're talking about, they're the best people we have, and they're Hispanic. The Border Patrol is largely Hispanic. ICE is largely Hispanic. They're unbelievable people. I don't know how they can take the abuse. They're taking rough people like this, like all of them. We have 10,000 at least. I could have done 10,000 of them. You're lucky I only did like 100. And this isn't even the worst of the group. They have murderers. They have some people we can't use their picture for legal reasons, but they're up for murder in their own country. And we jeopardize their case. When we send them back and we coordinate with other countries. A tremendous amount of work. All allowed in here by an open border policy of the worst president in the history of our country. A man that didn't win the election, by the way. It was a rigged election. Everybody knows that now. And by the way, numbers are coming out that show it even more plainly. We caught him. We caught him. So I just want you to know that it's a terrible thing. Here's the book on accomplishments. And this is something, I'm glad my finger wasn't in that sucker. That could have done some damage, but you know what? I wouldn't have shown the pain. I would have gone back. Boy, did you hear that? That was nasty. But I would not have shown the pain. I would have acted like nothing happened as my finger fell off. That was a nasty. I think somebody did that. It was him. It was my man. How were you? You didn't do it. I know you did. I know you didn't. So, but here's the book. These are all things we have. I'm going to read a few of the samples, but look at this. These are all, each line is something that we did. Nobody did that before. And it's big stuff, too. Look, we have the hottest country in the world. So, I will read you a few. We ended Biden's stagflation. We were in stagflation. That's a disaster. That's far worse than inflation. As you know, he had the biggest inflation in the history of our country. They say 48 years. Pick your choice. But they had the biggest inflation in the history of our country. We have it right down to a normal number now. We're going to get it even a little bit lower. Created super high. What we've done with growth is incredible. We created super high economic growth, and America is booming. It's booming. There are thousands of businesses right now that are being built. Many of the biggest factories in the world are being built right in our country. They're not going to other countries. They're leaving other countries. Fourth quarter GDP is on track to pass perhaps much more than 5% growth, and that's despite the fact that we had a Democrat shutdown. They shut down our country, and we had 5%. Nobody in this room has ever heard about 5%. I think it could be 20% if we do it right. If we don't, every time we have good numbers, they raise interest rates. You shouldn't do it. In the old days, if you had good numbers, they'd lower interest rates, or they wouldn't do anything. Here they try and kill it. They always try and kill success. Over the last 20, 25 years, that's the way. In the old days, if you had good numbers, the market would go through the roof. Today, if you have good numbers, the market goes down. But by the way, we've had the best stock market in history, the best 401ks in history, and we inherited a mess. The numbers that we inherited were way up, and now we brought them, almost all of them, way down. We brought them way down. I mean, I'm not getting, maybe I have the bad public relations people, but we're not getting it across. We inherited high numbers, and we brought them way down. And look at gasoline. They have places in the country now, $1.99 a gallon. $1.99, $2.30, $2.50. I guess the average now they're saying is $2.31. I mean, he was at $4.50 and $5 for periods of time. And he went back to the Trump formula, but he didn't do it properly, and he really went back to parts of it because you would have had $8 gasoline if they didn't. But he didn't do it properly. He had people that didn't know what they were doing. Core inflation for the last 3 months is 1.6%. 1.6. Their core inflation was so high that nobody could even calculate it. Under Biden, real incomes declined $3,000. Think of that, $3,000. That's a year. In 12 months, Trump real incomes went up by $2,000 and $3,000 and even in some cases $5,000. It's a tremendous difference. Stock market has set 52 all-time record highs during the course of the 11 months, because this was done on 11 months. Now we are actually officially 12 months as of today. 52 all-time record highs. That means 401ks did great. I have people see me all the time, policemen that guard us really well, and got to know them a little bit. And they said, "Sir, you're making me look so good. My 401k is through the roof. My wife thinks I'm the greatest genius, that I'm a financial genius, like Warren Buffett." He told me that. He said, I think they have better returns than Warren Buffett right now. But he said, all my life my wife has been criticizing me for not being smart financially. Now all of a sudden she loves me more. But we added $9 trillion in value to retirement accounts, saving many people. I mean, they were going out of business. Think of it. We added $9 trillion of value to retirement accounts, savings accounts, and 401ks. That's during the course of 12 months. And I think it's probably 11 months because I don't think they have it for the 12. They have it for the 11. Added $9 trillion of value. Lifted more than 1.2 million Americans off food stamps in 1 year. They would have had another 1.2 million. We would have had, welfare would have gone up. And instead of investing $18 trillion in our country, now it's probably more than that, but $18 trillion and having thousands of plants being built all over the country, you would have had thousands of plants closing all over the country, and you would have had disinvestment, and you would have had welfare going way up. You know, if you look at SNAP, take a look at SNAP, what happened with that? It was at $7 billion, and it came out to over $51 billion. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. The past administration, they had no clue. Or they were really bad, but they basically had no clue. But they did have a concept. I mean, they're still trying to sell the idea of men playing in women's sports. You saw that in the Supreme Court. I mean, some of those justices were fighting for them, too. They were fighting for them. But you saw that just the other day in the Supreme Court. Men playing in women's sports doesn't work. Secured a record-breaking $18 trillion in commitments for new investments. Apple, NVIDIA, SoftBank, Oracle, TSMC, Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly and Company, Micron, AstraZeneca, General Motors, Hyundai, Ford, Honda, GE Aerospace, many, many others. I left a Ford plant a week ago in Michigan that they were going to close 2 years ago, and now they just announced that they're going 24 hours around the clock making cars. Tariffs did it. I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do. I think to me it reads so plainly. Couldn't be plainer. You're allowed to do a license. Tariff is probably less severe than what a license could be. But think of it. You're allowed to do a license, and then they have a clause at the end, something to the effect, or what is necessary, something to that effect. And what is necessary with tariffs. I don't know where there's a case even there, but we've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars, and if we lose that case, it's possible we're going to have to do the best we can in paying it back. I don't know how that's going to be done very easily without hurting a lot of people. But we're waiting for that case anxiously, and we have tremendous national security because of tariffs and tremendous income. You know, we have, and by the way, no inflation. So everyone said, oh, tariffs will cause inflation. We have no inflation. We have very little inflation. Biden had inflation, and he didn't do tariffs. We had a huge problem. We have a 62% reduction in our trade deficit. So if you had a 1% reduction, a normal president would have a 1%, 2% reduction. Everybody would be high-fiving. At a 62% reduction, next year we won't have a trade deficit. We secured most favored nations agreements to slash drug prices by as much. And to me, I think this might be the biggest thing of all. We get zero talk about it. The New York Times had a story way in the back of the paper, a little story about it. I think it's the biggest thing there is when you talk about health care.
Ou vle toujou informé, rete connecté à Cohort Info. Cohort Info, toute information pour permettre de rester connecté à actualité dans tout domaine. Actualité politique, culturelle, économie, sport, musique. Junior Auguste apporte toutes nouvelles, les grands points qui dominent l'actualité. Cohort Info. Restez connecté à Cohort Info sur Facebook, YouTube et TikTok. Cohort Info, ban Cohort na bon info. Cohort Info, nouvelle 50.
Cohort Info, avant Bajou Cassé, Junior Auguste dit et dira tout. Toute l'actu, sport, musique, politique, Cohort Info, nouvelle sans camper.